Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our 10th Engineering Experts Group podcast. My name is Sally Buckley, and I'm the Managing Director of Pragmatic Success. We're engaged in executive search, coaching, and management consulting, specializing in infrastructure. I've been in the business for about more than 25 years. We've worked all over the world. Have experience with Bechtel Corporation and worked on rail, transit, water projects, tunnels, bridges. And the reason for the podcast is to thank the contributors. I'm just genuinely honored to have worked with the best and the brightest all over the world, and quite frankly, have never had enough. And so today, I'm introducing Peter Torres, and I'm so genuinely excited because Peter is such a huge contributor to our business and transportation, water business, and he's going to share a little bit about his story with us today. But before we get started, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about Peter so you just kind of know his brief history, and then he'll go in and explore further. But anyway, Peter has 25 years of experience in marketing communications, print broadcast journalism. He's the winner of $300 million in work in the A&E industry. He's been a consultant. He's an expert creator in concise, informative, and persuasive proposals. Currently, Peter is the vice president of CES Consultants in Miami, Florida. And in addition to his expansive experience specific to business development and marketing, which is what we need in our business, is that he has had honors. I wanted to share his honors. He's had the Atkins Manager Essentials Certification, Apex Award for Employee Benefits News, and the Best New Reporter of the Year for the Sun Sentinel. Peter has a BA in Mass Communications, magna cum laude at Florida State University. And so before Peter joins us, I just want to share with you that critical to our business is the business development and marketing. And as you know from other podcasts that you've listened to, I've interviewed presidents of companies, bridge experts, rail and transit. And today we're going to just go in and do a deep dive into the criticality of winning the work through this effort, proposal writing, RFPs, just working with clients and agencies. So Peter, I'm so happy to have you here with us. So let's go ahead and explore and do a deep dive into your history, and I'm just excited that you're here with us. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. What an amazing introduction. I hope I can live up to half of those nice things you said about me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We've talked about this for such a long time, so it's a treat. And yes, I'm back home. I've done a full circle. I'm in South Florida. I was born and raised here 100 years ago, and left to go to school at Florida State University, and then moved to Atlanta and Dallas after that. And I've just returned home, and it's so nice to be back in the place where it sort of all began, which is here. So I started at the Sun Sentinel, as you had mentioned, as a reporter, a very junior reporter through a high school program that existed at the time called Next Generation. And that was really a huge foray for me into the world of journalism, because in middle school, I had come into the love of journalism because of working with the school newspaper. And one of my first mentors was the woman who ran that program. And that's when I started to realize that I might have a passion for writing, and I might be exploring it as a creative outlet and potentially a career. And my time at the Sun Sentinel was really what started this journey, where I began learning the power of the written word and what you can accomplish with it, and the creativity behind it, and the craft behind it. And that really set off a bit of a spark in me to explore it further in college at Florida State.
That's really exciting. Very, very exciting. So your audience is going to really love to hear a little bit more about, because we're talking full circle. So you're at the Sun Sentinel, and then what happened with you moving into this space? I don't want to jump over hurdles, but let's just talk
Yeah.
about how this evolved.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because at no point in my developmental years did I somehow even understand what business development was, or proposal writing, or marketing, really, or for that matter, what the AEC industry was. It was kind of a different path that I took to get where I am today. And what I really love about that is it offered some different skill sets that I think um, make what I'm doing now sort of an extension of all of my past history, which is kind of cool to call upon those skill sets. Um, but really, when I left the Sun Sentinel to go to college at Florida State, I continued to have a relationship with them and was able to work part-time during the summers whenever they needed some extra hands, and I was able to do that on and off throughout college, and really enjoyed that experience, and had a complete intention to get into journalism when I graduated. Um, and around that time, I felt like the journalism landscape was changing a bit. Newspapers were um, closing their newsrooms and getting smaller, and not in this expansive place that I thought, I was hoping they would be in at the time I was graduating. And that wasn't the case. So I started exploring some other possibilities and knew I wanted to write. And so I got into writing for television at the local NBC affiliate in Tallahassee. Um, Enjoyed that very much. That kind of added another layer into writing for a different audience. And I was studying mass communication at Florida State. So it kind of fed into my studies and what I was planning to do when I graduated. Um, but I kind of felt like there was more to be had. There was more to do. And a friend of mine said, you might want to consider ad writing, copywriting. That's really creative. It's a lot of fun. And so I stepped into that space for a while and really honed the craft of creative writing on the fly, which is a whole other discipline.
Now, where were you working at this space? Is this still with Sun Sentinel or not?
No, at this point, I had left television and was working at an employee benefits company, if you can believe it. And I was working in their communications department, developing materials for open enrollment. And we were just tasked with trying to make this very, run-of-the-mill, mundane sort of subject matter into something creative. And that was a real challenge. And I learned a lot of skill from attempting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed there for quite a while, and I started becoming friends with folks in the marketing department, and their job, of course, was to bring in business for the company, respond to RFPs. I didn't even know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine said, this is really where you can do well in this industry, make some money, use your writing skills. You should really consider getting into proposal writing, which had never occurred to me before. And so, lo and behold, I was able to get a job with PBS&J, a firm that's now been acquired by Atkins, at the time as a proposal coordinator in Tallahassee. And I think, for me, that's where the journey began.
Yeah.
I was able to put the writing in my past to work in a brand new industry, the AEC industry, and I loved it. It was so exciting.
Yeah. What did you work on? Were you did you specialize, or did you just take on, were you specializing in infrastructure at that time, at that new juncture?
I was, yes, I
Yeah.
was. It came from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
After doing that for some years, I was able to grow into some leadership positions in marketing, and sort of mentor and grow proposal coordinators into their own professional right. And I ended up at my peak managing 12 people across the country and really enjoying that. Starting to get into what we call the capture space. So sort of the holistic opportunity pursuit outside of just the proposal element, the preparation beforehand, the presentation afterward, just the client relationships that you foster once you win the job. And what I realized is I was starting to have a calling for sort of the greater business development picture. And I assumed an opportunity out in Texas to grow a firm's BD footprint throughout the entire state, and did that for a few years as well, and just really loved it.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem was I started that job, and 2 months later, COVID hit. And so being out and about and sort of exploring the element of relationship building externally, and all of that became a very virtual thing for several years. And so that was one element that was a challenge to a new task at hand that I had not, nobody could have anticipated for
Right.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right around that time that I had heard of a position that was available here in South Florida at CES for a business development and marketing lead. And I thought, in South Florida, in the same place that I grew up in and left so many years ago, it just never occurred to me to come back. And so I explored this opportunity for several months, right? You might know what I'm talking about.
we did this together, didn't we?
We did this together. I mean, I think the audience would love to know that you were most definitely influential in my return to South Florida and everything that it's been. And it eventually worked out, and I met the most amazing CEO, Rudy Ortiz, who runs our company, CES Consultants. And we really connected on an interpersonal level, and it felt like the stars were aligning for something I had never even considered, which I suppose is how a lot of good things come to us. And lo and behold, returned to South Florida. Present day, I live downtown. I'm very fortunate enough to live in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and right outside of my window is the Sun Sentinel building, which I see every morning when I have my cup of coffee. So it's this amazing kismet full circle moment I'm reminded of every day. And so I'm so pleased for it to have worked out the way it did.
Well, it's really exciting. Rudy Ortiz is quite a master, isn't he? Peter, maybe we could explore a little bit about what the work is with CES and your role as a vice president. But also, I think there's this beautiful synergistic story that I've heard so many times, and have had the pleasure of working with Rudy myself, and what he brings to, well, he's brought, some really enthusiastic, fun feelings, because I've interviewed him as well on the podcast, but also how he presents himself in the community that you've talked about. Why don't we explore that a little bit, because how that works into the business development and marketing, because he really is a master at helping us all in the infrastructure space as a model. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really, I've been blessed along the way to have some really good mentors and teachers in my life. They're kind of my guardian angels that show up out of nowhere sometimes. And, Rudy is one of those people for sure. He's a pleasure to spend time with. Watching him is like witnessing a masterclass in organic relationship building. He really cares about people and building long-term relationships, especially with our clients. His job, as he sees it, is to be of service to them and to make friends along the way. And he has this infectious personality, as you know, that people just really gravitate toward. So coming from a place, me personally, of 2 years in Texas, kind of hamstrung by COVID, to returning to South Florida, being out in the space with Rudy, watching him, I've had the best education in relationship building and meeting people and connecting with them on a human level. It's been a real blessing for me.
Well, I think the exposure is also something that sometimes people working on proposals don't always have that advantage of of being in that space. And I think that helps to build the enthusiasm for the win, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. I mean, you've got to have something, you have to present something that's a little bit different from your competitors. And maybe you want to talk about what CES is doing. Let's explore CES and what the global footprint looks like down the road. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's one of the things that really attracted me to CES was this ambitious plan for itself in the future. And we're a firm who specializes in engineering, program management, and construction work, both throughout Florida, in New York, and now we're making inroads into Alabama as well. We're a very growing company. And that's in large part because of the relationships that have been built and the great work that has been delivered since the company was founded more than 20 years ago. So what we're doing now is looking for people from all skill sets, levels, and backgrounds to check us out and see if you want to join the journey with us, because we need great people. We need great engineers. We need great program managers. I am always on the hunt for amazing marketing and BD individuals, because we really want to offer to our clients the best in class service that we can possibly give them through the lens of caring for them as an individual, but even more so about our neighborhoods and the places that we live.
Absolutely. One of the things that after working at Bechtel for so many years and my role has been in human resources management for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I jumped out of that and got into, creating a company on my own because I love the business so much and I wanted to have more exposure to more companies actually. But one of the things that I think as an observer to the proposal team, the business development team, we need to give thanks to you guys. I think that's part of this podcast series is to all the contributors that have made a difference. And when you think about it, the size of the projects, the scope, having just having a footprint and creating more. I mean, because if you win one, right, you've got an expertise. Your agencies become more attentive. You're attracting more people. And what makes you guys stand out a little bit from other companies, do you think?
I think it really boils down to being a people-centric business, as you were sort of alluding to there. You have to take a moment and say thanks to the individuals that got you where you are today and to the success that you enjoy. And that's always been a very passionate thing for me, is making sure to recognize our team members and just to say thank you. And I feel like CES is a business that is very people-centric. And that's what's important. We all want to feel like we're contributing. We all want to feel like we are part of something bigger than ourselves and working toward a common goal. And you have to recognize that and share the win with everybody who participated. And that can be a lot of people, as you know.
Absolutely. So Peter, you've got this podcast goes out to thousands of people. What kind of what would you like, as if you were gonna, like, you have a team of people that you work with as collaborators outside of the business. Why don't you talk about that, and then the importance of having mentors and being a mentor and having a mentor. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because all that, I think, melds together for our development, don't you think? And sustainability.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I do absolutely have a mentor group. Again, I've had some amazing people be part of my professional life along the way and guide me and serve as mentors to me. And, as a person who continues to want to grow and learn, I continue sort of wanting to seek that out from people who are willing to share. And so I'm part of a mentor group, and it's just friends that have worked together along the way for many years, almost 15, 20 years, some of us. And we connect with each other every, 6 weeks or so, have a video call, have a virtual cocktail hour. And we talk to each other and serve as our own sort of board of mentors. Some folks are previous supervisors and are, very mature in their career. We have one woman who is 22 years old, and she came to us as a junior proposal coordinator some years ago, and she became part of this group. And so it's all ages and all experience levels, because I think it's important to really celebrate and support each other and serve as sounding boards and take the temperature of a career opportunity with people who perhaps have done something similar. So that's what I love about our mentor board, and what that's really called me to do at this stage in my career is make sure that I'm paying it forward, right? I mean, I want to be a mentor to anybody who needs it, wants to talk, wants to explore a possibility in this marketing space in the AEC industry. I'm happy to be that to anybody. So if you're listening to this and you're looking for a mentor, you just look me up, cesconsult.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy to do that for anybody coming up in this industry.
I think it's brilliant. I really do. I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is to just create more exposure. Peter, talk about what's been a challenge for you that this is kind of, I suppose, being a little bit transparent, but we all grow from other people's experiences. And I know I've certainly had a lot of challenges that I overcame, and I'd love to know if you can think of anything in the business practice that was a challenge for you that you could sort of help other people to navigate with you on.
Yeah, I think sometimes the challenges for me come from knowing when to make a right move. There is calculated risk involved, and there's no magic formula for whether or not an opportunity that's in front of you is the right one. You have to do your homework. You have to dig a little. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's a slow walk. So for me, the challenge was always, if it's the right opportunity, saying yes to it, because it's really easy to go into a space of, look, the timing isn't, I can't deal with this week, things are busy, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes you have to slow down and say yes to the opportunity. And that's always been a challenge for me, but I've watched over these years how saying yes to the universe sometimes is indeed the right, quote unquote, decision as you move forward, that you don't necessarily see at the time, So you have to do the work, you have to do the homework, you have to say yes if the opportunity is right. And sometimes that means standing in your space of fear, and doing it anyway. It's okay to be afraid, but don't let it stop you. And always remember that you've got mentors out there, potential mentors out there. You are not alone. Seek out a support system. Mm-hmm. It's really important, and it can make all the difference.
Yeah. So, another challenge for all of us is just losing, right? Losing a project, right? And having that time to just feel a little broken for a while as a team, individually, and go through what happened and the Monday morning quarterbacking, all those dynamics.
That's right.
What is important? It's getting back in there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's regrouping as a team.
Yep.
On those tough days when you lose, you all lose together. And that means that there's something to learn together that you can apply moving forward. And who likes a loss? Nobody does. But that's where the growth occurs. That's when the growth occurs.
I just want to do a shout out for the marketing and business development. I remember when I was in San Francisco working close by the proposal team, and I remember seeing people working hours and hours and hours for the deliverable, for the orals, right? The pre-work before the orals, the getting the packages together, and it's time sensitive, right? Because it has to be hit that deadline, and
That's right.
and you're always on go, and your families are over here until you get that
Yes.
done, right? Everything has kind of full speed ahead, and I think that collaboration is really, really important for teams to recognize each other. Project managers, scheduling teams, estimators, procurement team, proposal team. I mean, you are a family for a very, however long it takes to get that done. And sometimes you start these projects, these RFPs too late. And I know you know that. Can you explore that with me? Because I think what we want to do is get into the rootedness of collaboration, team building, celebrating, not celebrating the loss, but working consciously together to not go into that beat up mode, because you could do that all day long. It's like, how do we regroup, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And yes, marketing people, IT people, HR people, we see you. We see you. We know that you don't always get the recognition, but we see each of you because, as Sally mentioned, the marketing folks, I've been there many a night working on a proposal to get something out. My team has, friends of mine, we all have those war stories. And it's so important to recognize that, because these people give their time away from families and weekends and evenings and holidays sometimes. And they're really critical to the win. You don't win without marketing folks. And sometimes when you lose, it takes that minute to regroup as a team to sort of move forward. You do have to kind of mourn that loss. You take a minute, right? Just like you celebrate a win, you sometimes have to mourn a loss, particularly something that's, been on your radar for years in the making, perhaps. And it's how you recover from that that's most critical.
Yeah.
Hopefully you pull together as a team. I always felt closer to my teammates when we had an investment together in an opportunity. And if it won or lost, you felt like you bonded. It was an experience that only these people on this team could truly understand.
Yeah.
So it's important to walk away from a win or a loss as a team and take any lessons learned moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a terrific team over at CES. I know how hard you're working. You have a
Thank
terrific
you.
HR department. I know that you're working hard to meet the demands. I mean, the scheduling must be crazy over there. Rudy thinks the world of you. He's, in fact, I called Rudy before this recording, and I just said,
Oh my
"Hey,
goodness.
what would you like to say?" And he just really values your input. And I think one of the things that's really valuable about you, Peter, is that you don't need to get out in front. You're out in front because of the demand and the requirements, but as a personality type, I think your inclusivity is a model that I'd like for this audience to really, really hone in on, is that we're not doing this alone. And Peter is a terrific model for you to, like he said earlier in the podcast, to call them up, look them up, and ask questions and stuff. And I think there's also incredible synergy if you guys, we're observing Peter's evolution, from, being at the newspaper, doing this leap into proposal writing, and your eyes are wide open, and now what? And then all of a sudden you're evolving right into transportation, and becoming an expert, because we all have to. I remember I didn't know anything about the business when I set foot in Bechtel, and it was like I was in the middle of the ocean. But you know what? I think what's really gorgeous about all this is how much I love it. I just
Yeah.
love it. I love it because I know that when I drive down a street, or I see a big, treatment plant, or go across a bridge, or ride a train, or whatever, it's because of you guys. I mean, it's just
Oh man.
amazing. And I think that's the beauty of this story of what we all can do together. And I think with Biden's infrastructure plan that's out now, and putting a lot of money into rehabilitation, new projects. I mean, it's really, really key. And CES, talk about a footprint. I mean, the water business is very, very key. Do you want to explore that and what you guys are up to relative to the water wastewater treatment business?
Sure. Thank you, son. Thank you so much for all of that. That's very kind. We are certainly very busy people, as you have correctly stated. There is so much to do, right? I think we all know the state of infrastructure in this country. Thank goodness there is funding coming down the pike to sort of help with the different infrastructure improvements that we need to make. And CES is right in the middle of the water and wastewater industry when it comes to helping cities be resilient to things like sea level rise, which is a problem, as you can imagine, here in South Florida. I live in Fort Lauderdale, as you know, and there are times of the year where high tide meets a full moon, and they're called king tides, and water comes rushing up through the stormwater drains in the street. This is the kind of stuff that we're trying to get in front of. This is the kind of infrastructure that we want agencies to address through resiliency and future improvements. And so we're positioning ourselves as program managers and as engineers and as consultants to partner with these different agencies, particularly in the water wastewater space, as they look forward toward resiliency in the future. And outside of that, CES, of course, has lots of growth plans for different sectors moving forward. And I think you're going to see us explore opportunities in more the transportation space, perhaps. We certainly have a footprint in aviation here in South Florida.
Oh, yeah. Could you talk about that? Yeah, would you talk about
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. As program managers and construction managers at both Miami International Airport and here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, we've worked on many infrastructure projects as it relates to terminal improvements and Southwest Airlines Terminal 1 here at Fort Lauderdale, the North Terminal at Miami International Airport. We are exploring further possibilities working at Port Miami. We do have quite a portfolio of work there as well. And this is all infrastructure, right? Just outside of the traditional water wastewater space. Right. There's a lot of work to do, as you can see. And so we're exploring ways that we can help clients in different spheres. Depending on what they need, we're happy to help.
That's really, really exciting. I love the port work, airport work, water work, whatever it is. And let's just go into the future a little bit about what it looks like for CES and how you would like to see yourself expand, maybe from a professional perspective and then from a business perspective. What's it looking like down the road for these guys?
I think very, very bright. We have some immense talent within our four walls, with a spirit for growth and with a passion for the work that we do. So I think the biggest challenge, that we're going to face is finding as many right people as possible to grow in the timeline that we want to see ourselves grow in. We want folks to come join us on this journey. We want people to have the passion that we do for improving infrastructure and making a difference in our neighborhoods and our communities, right? Mm-hmm. Personally, I want to continue growing and learning. That's what I see in my future, mm-hmm. continuing to be a sponge around people like Rudy in my life. So to become educated on things that I can improve on. Life is a journey of education. And I feel like there's always more to learn. So, maybe I'll be senior vice president one day and continue learning and exploring and expanding what CES can do. So I'm very excited for the future.
Yeah. And for some of the people that you're desiring to have on the team, of course, engineering, but it's marketing, it's so expansive. And as Peter was identifying the scope and the different types of work, there's probably a lot of opportunity for cross-functional training, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things that, that's when you start to explore things that you didn't even realize were possibilities or that you couldn't even imagine you'd be good at. And that's when really amazing innovation happens, right? When you learn something that you didn't even realize you were good at via like a cross training program, it just enriches your entire skill set. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And just those of you that are out there that are just getting started, please get your PEs. You know that. Just keep growing and expanding, asking for help, getting yourselves mentors so that you are not out there by yourself. And I think as a strategy, probably Peter, you might agree, is just that take a look at the culture of the community that you're intending to go and work in. And Peter, there's another thing that I think is really key here is sometimes we stay stuck in our spaces
Mm,
because it's comfortable or it's an easy commute or better
hmm
not rock the boat because of the family situation. But then there's
hmm
that beautiful thing that's going on inside of ourselves to grow. And I know for myself, I mean, I've moved across the country. Talk about saying yes. I mean, and I want to say it was scary. It was scary to say
Of
yes. For
course.
me, I was joined a $3 billion project in Northern Virginia, a rail project, and I remember flying across country, looking down, saying, "What am I doing? I'm giving up San
Mm,
Francisco to move to Virginia." But I have to tell you, I've never looked back, and I think that's probably true for what you're saying. So let's
yes.
explore that dynamic of making changes and getting out of your comfort zone because I think that is inclusive into the future planning for the individual that's listening.
Yes, absolutely true. Absolutely true. I mean, I think it goes back to that standing in your fear and doing it anyway. Um, because the easy default, as you just said, the default setting is to stay in your comfort space. That's what we all want to do. That's what we all gravitate toward, I think, instinctually. Um, and those are the places where when you can identify a calculated risk that intrigues you and that you've done your homework on and you leap, it's that moment when you say yes, I think, that you give yourself to chance. And most often when I speak to people, just like what you said and exactly the feelings I have about moving here, most often I find that people say that they would never look back and they would do it again. It seems to be those missed opportunities that people regret, not the ones that they take, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
So I think there's such value in what you're saying about saying yes to a calculated risk and the right opportunity, despite being afraid.
Right. Absolutely. And so when we hone into the individual processes is getting feedback, right? And these annual
Mm,
reviews and
yes.
in strategic planning with the individual and the group and also a trajectory. I mean, I would encourage managers to plan a strategic goals and a trajectory of what it looks like in the next couple of years. So there's this sense of inclusivity, and I really want to encourage these annual reviews and these because everybody, we all need feedback, especially if we're not seeing, we're kind of blindsided by our own inability to see what's going on, and somebody that cares and admires us and wants us to grow. It's really important to speak truth to that growth process, bad or good. Would you agree with that, Peter, on
Oh, yes. Oh,
development?
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's feedback on performance. And the other piece, as you mentioned, is really documenting and outlining your plan so that everybody knows the direction that we're headed. And I think those are two things that professionals really crave, right? Feedback on performance. Am I doing a good job?
Hmm.
And where are we headed? What's the direction? And performance reviews and establishing goals are really at the center of being able to give those two things to your team members. So you're absolutely right. It's critically important. so that you can maximize your own success as an organization and as a team.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something else that comes to mind, being a manager that trusts them, trust mistakes that might be made, but that can be corrected, but not micromanaging so much to impact the person's personal or professional growth. I think that's important. It's having a trusted team. Do you want to explore that a little bit?
Yes, that's so true. I mean, I don't know any professional I've worked with over the years who said that they like to be micromanaged. And I think if you surround yourself with the right fit for your team, the individuals that come together that make your team, if they're each a right fit, at that point, they just need the tools to do their job and your support as a manager. And then you as a manager need to get out of the way. Let them do their job. Let them bring their 10, 15, 20 years of experience to the table. Let them apply what they've learned over the years to guide your team and guide your organization. And if you have the right folks in place, to me, that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Peter, if you were going to summarize this story, how would you like to deliver a message? I mean, you've delivered obviously wonderful messages to people that are listening, but how would you like to summarize this podcast series? Because I've learned a lot today, and I love the interaction because I love the business. Go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. First, thank you again for this, because it's been just a treat. I mean, I love speaking to you when we speak off the record. So this is a treat, and thank you for having me. But yeah, I think for me, the entire story comes down to you don't always know where life is going to take you. And the path that gets you to your current location may be different from others, but it's how you use the skill set that you bring to the table. And each one of us has a unique skill set to an organization, to something that gives back, to a team, to a neighborhood, to everyone. It's what you bring to the table and your unique skill set that really can make all the difference. And sometimes you don't know where the path is going to lead you. I never thought I'd come home, and here I am at the place that I grew up and had no intention of returning to, at an organization that is teaching me something every day, and where I feel fulfilled. So for me, the answer is, if you're listening and you're exploring a new career path, or you're not sure where to go on your current career path, find yourself a support system out there, and you'll be surprised at what your individual skill set might bring to a position that you're not even aware of.
That's great. It's beautiful. You know what's different about this podcast for me, and I'm excited about it, is what we did was we looked at the space of the dynamic of infrastructure in all these different ways that this is happening for us worldwide, right? And we're all interconnected. But what I love about it is that you have delivered a more humane approach, and that's who you are. And it's, yes, get the job done, win the project, do whatever it takes, gather together for the win, celebrate the win collectively with the agencies and whoever is the owner of the job, so to speak, but also with the team. But also, like you said, is that if you fall down and things don't work, you don't win the job, take a little time and be together, because it's a collective thing. So I think that Rudy is very fortunate to have you, as you are grateful to have him in your life and the other members of your team. You've got an awesome team in CES, and I'm genuinely excited to see what's going to happen down the road. I love participating and working with you guys, and I just want to do a shout out to CES and what it looks like in the, what it looks like down the road. It's quite spectacular. So Peter, I just want to say thank you so much for enlightening me, your team, your audience out here. And it just feels very natural. So thank you for this. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping me continue the excitement of this world we live in. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for inviting me here today. And I can't wait to see what you and I can do together in the future.
Absolutely. All righty. Just so you know, you guys, a newsletter will be going out with to deliver out to thousands of people. The podcast will be posted on multiple sites, and we're just thrilled. So thanks, Peter. Have a great day. And by the way, this is March of 2022. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.